Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I just got done with my morning routine, and as one does, I started pondering on what is the biggest socio-political issue in today's society. I came to the conclusion: tall people. Are you perhaps short, vertically challenged, pint-sized? Well, today I will be joining you in ending the tall supremacy in Warhammer 3 as the mighty faction of the dwarves. The best way I can describe playing the dwarves is that it's very much like stealing from the elderly. It's far too easy and gets boring very quickly. Step 1. Place front line. Step 2. Place back line. Step 3. Jerk off while the army plays itself. In an attempt to make their gameplay more interesting, I downloaded a few mods to enhance the gaming experience, allowing me to recruit a variety of war crime machines, like tanks, blimps, helicopters, motorcycles, runic golems, missile platforms, and laser turrets. You might be wondering if any of these are lore-friendly. No. Absolutely not. But do I care? Also no. Because I have half-naked short men on motorcycles blasting people with grenade launchers. I believe I made my case. The only thing left to do is to find a target for our brand new toys. Luckily, the dwarves have a mechanic called the Book of Grudges, where they list everyone who has ever committed crimes against their people. Heinous atrocities such as even remotely hinting at their stature, or being of the opinion that children don't belong in the mines. There is one specific grudge we will be focusing on today, which is against the High Elves. There are a bunch of lore reasons why this grudge exists, but I think I know the real reason. High Elves? That's it. I've heard enough. Launch the ICMs. Our legendary lord of choice will be Grombindol, the White Dwarf, a completely normal and socially well-adjusted individual who doesn't look even remotely unhinged. With that being said, can we succeed in turning the majestic cities and magical forests of the High Elves into coal mines and blow them to smithereens with copious amounts of gunpowder? Or will the pointy ears have the final laugh? There is only one way to know. Starting in the state of Oregon, I embraced the American spirit by immediately bombing, shooting, and roasting the indigenous population, quickly securing my first province with the capital named the Altar of Ultimate Darkness. Pretty accurate description of America. About now, I should maybe explain some dwarf gameplay mechanics with the utmost accuracy. We have a unique currency called Old Gold, which is absolutely useless. You can spend it on magic items in the Forge, an activity I didn't partake in once during the whole campaign. You also need a certain amount of it to research some technologies, meaning it acts as more of an obstacle than anything. Secondly, we have a mechanic called the Age of Reckoning. As dwarves, we have the primal, instinctual urge to hate people. As such, we have a number of grudges against anybody and everybody that breathes. That random Bretonian army on the other side of the map, that we have never interacted with, yeah, we have grudges against him, because they have committed the most heinous crime of all, being French. And obviously, the only way to settle your grudges with the dwarves is death. Once we accumulate a certain amount of settled grudges shown on this handy-dandy bar at the top, we enter a new age of reckoning, granting us grudge settler units, which are just fancier versions of the normal ones. But they are pretty useful for quickly replacing losses instead of waiting for global recruitment. There is also the Grombindol specific mechanic, called the Living Ancestors. This gives us a choice between 4 buffs to give Grombindol's army. They are all perfectly valid choices as long as it's the apprentice of Grangi, because money. Our first opponent is resident edgelord with mommy issues, Malekith. Now normally I like to fight battles where I can, but when this slimy freak approaches me with a full army of dark shards, don't blame me when I would rather take the auto-resolve. It seems he took that personally and attacked me with a full army of shades on the following turn. These guys have stalk, meaning they are invisible when not firing. Great. Love it. After fighting a battle which can only be described as walking around blindfolded while violent sex criminals attempt to shoot you with crossbows, I capture the Dark Elf capital and gladly piece them out. But just as the famous saying goes, when you get rid of one degenerate delinquent, there is always another one waiting around the corner. Cathep. Why this walking bag of dirt decided to invade me, I do not know, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. With the Runic Units mod, I have the ability to recruit powerful animated golems of varying sizes. The way I can recruit them is by building a certain building in the deeps of a dwarf settlement. I should mention that the deeps are a unique building to the dwarves. These are essentially underground gold mines where we employ ethical mining practices, which will boost our income to ludicrous amounts in the future. But for now, they will be useful for recruiting death machines. Additionally, we also need materials to build the golems in the forge. Most of the materials I already have, except for salt. Guess who has salt? Cathep. Meaning I just went to war with an ancient mummy lord for some seasoning to build myself a Gundam. Brilliant. Unsurprisingly, a bunch of dumbass skeletons are no match for catapults and helicopters. But there was a lot of them. After my superior firepower managed to mow down, burn and blow up all the undead, I captured his cities, including the most important point of interest, the salt mine, leaving Cathep with a total of 3 towns and most importantly, saltless. Next on my shopping list for creating weapons of mass destruction is wood. And wouldn't you know it, there's a wood elf grove right there. It turns out flamethrowers are quite effective against women in next to no clothing, and guns are better than bows. They did manage to flank around my front line and impale some of my artillery teams on the antlers of their deers, which wasn't very pleasant, but we ended up pulling through. After defeating these wild savages and leaving them in a rat-infested ditch, we now have quite a good amount of land to our name. Funnily enough, it seems Cathep now likes us, because the Sisters of Twilight were actually his main enemy, meaning us beating them up earned quite a bit of favor with him. We also have all the necessary ingredients to make powerful machines of war, so it's time to spend a few turns in peace, upgrading my military and preparing for... Well then. A few turns ago I had the mild suspicion that Valkia didn't like us very much, and I attempted to bribe her with thousands of gold. For a second it seemed to have worked. It turns out this was the equivalent of giving meth to a meth head in an attempt to convince them to leave you alone, which just led to them aggressively following you to your house, demanding for more.
You guys don't have crack? Fuck you.
At this point we reached enough passive income to recruit a second army, promptly naming the general after the mightiest dwarf there is,
Tyler motherfucking 1.
Fighting Khorne for the dwarves is quite the unfavorable matchup, since most of her units have armor piercing. Fun fact, my entire roster is armored. Additionally, they are pretty fast, meaning they can quickly close the distance before we can hammer them with our artillery. But I have the perfect solution to this. Gromindal has reached level 30, meaning I can recruit a Regiments of Renown unit called the Rainmaker of Morgrim. Now, I don't think you can even begin to grasp how insanely powerful this thing is. Manned by a Congo line of dwarves, this absolute beast of a cannon is capable of more large-scale devastation than a pitbull released on a playground. It has 836 missile strength and a range of 800, meaning there is nowhere safe from this thing. The only catch is that once enemies get within a certain range, it can't fire at them anymore. But that's probably for the best, since it would annihilate my own units. I group up my armies and start marching towards Valkia, walking straight into an ambush. Fantastic. Thinking I can't win, my goal for this battle was to do as much damage as possible, so that Tyler 1's army could finish them off on the following turn. But due to the orientation of the hill and the stature of my infantry, my flamethrowers were able to shoot over the heads of my front line, devastating the enemy. Also, for some reason she deployed a good number of her units quite far away, meaning the Rainmaker could get to work. It only managed to get off a single shot, but even that did quite a good amount of damage. It was a hard-fought battle, but the lucky positioning of the terrain and the resilience of the dwarves prevailed. We captured a few Chaos settlements before she could recover and sent another stack of the calmest League players in our direction.
In your existence, in-game of course!
A quick tip for playing the dwarves is to use the underwave movement whenever you can. It moves through terrain like mountains and rivers unimpeded and also ignores irritation of any kind. Also, when anybody engages you in battle, it will take place on the underway map. This map is really favorable for the dwarves. It's a simple, straight hallway with nothing for your enemies to take cover behind. And it's narrow enough that you can comfortably cover its entirety with your infantry line, not having to worry about some wild deer flanking you and stabbing you in the liver. It's about as interesting of a map as the dwarves are as a faction. Anyways, on this map we can finally witness the true power of the Rainmaker. Even with that decisive victory, Valkia seemed to have the uncanny ability to shit out full-stack armies every 3 turns. I don't know what kind of shadow rituals she's performing to pull this off, but it's getting pretty annoying. During our war with her, I continued to expand our military technology, unlocking units such as gyrocycles, which are the absolute pinnacle of Dwarven engineering, and also gyrodynes, which are pretty ridiculous. Firing torpedoes with a missile strength of over 1000. Their main weakness is that they have the air mobility of an American without his scooter, and have the staggering melee defense of 4, meaning the average hummingbird could probably beat them in a melee fight. But whatever, at least they can blow shit up. After multiple turns of slogging through her seemingly endless supply of demons, we finally wipe her off the map. Afterward, her vassalized tribe of Swedish people tried suing for peace. That's not how this works, bucko. You are getting turned into fertilizer. Unfortunately, that's not the last we see of the Chaos Degenerates, as the Warhammer equivalent of a fanboy declares war on us. This is not very good, since his lands stretch quite far to the east along the edge of the map, precisely the opposite direction of where we want to expand. But we will have to deal with it somehow. I recruit my 3rd general, the 2nd mightiest dwarf known to mankind, and give him a highly advanced army of our latest tier artillery, war balloons, blimps, and runic golem and runic guardian units. These are the guys we needed the salt and wood for. And finally, some actual cavalry in the form of hog riders. At this point, the Sisters of Twilight offer me a trading agreement, which is pretty wild considering a few turns ago I cut down their forests for an arts and crafts project. But fine, I take it. Now I have a wall of allies to my south, shielding me from the Dark Elves. Really nice. My master plan for dealing with Sigvald is to humiliate him so badly in combat that he will rather offer a peace treaty and never talk to me again, out of shame. Little did I know, he's into that type of stuff. A new Age of Reckoning triggers, giving me a free army of grudge settlers, which I used to start advancing on Sigvald's vassal. Meanwhile, his forces start flooding into my territories like a bad case of STDs. My main army is still occupied with finishing off the remnants of Valkia's vessel, and Kaisinat is still in recruitment, meaning Tyler 1 is gonna have to hold the line alone. We managed to pick off one of the armies with lightning strike, but get caught by the other 2. But I had a strategy planned. A funny trait of most Chaos factions is that they have nearly no range units. And these armies in particular didn't have any flying units either, meaning they had no answer to my gyrodynes and copters. So I just flew over their heads while they were waiting for the reinforcements and started blowing them up. After they got bored of being exploded by torpedoes and having bombs dropped on their heads, they started closing the distance, and now were being bombarded by thunderlobes and light machine guns. But even so, when the melee engagement began, it was still quite the close fight. We ended up barely pulling through. After such a heroic battle, Tyler could fall back and recover, while Grombindel and Kaisinat take over. I spent the following few turns personally performing multiple castrations on Sigvald and his lords, pushing deep into his territory. Eventually, we reach a bit of a roadblock because after this line, the climate of his settlements become chaos waste. Chaos wastes are uninhabitable for us, meaning the land here is so goddamn disgusting due to whatever Sigvald was up to that building anything here is basically useless. So I resorted to just burning them down. This did slow down our advancements a bit, but it didn't stop us. At this point, Cathep offers me a military alliance, becoming a full-blown ally. A few turns ago, I annihilated 90% of his faction for some salt, but to him that's water under the bridge because I shot a fanboy. Didn't know Cathep was chill like that. Meanwhile, I began recruitment of a 4th army, naming him John Dwarf. I'm running out of names. Equipping his army with the largest helicopters we have access to, a Regiments of Renown Mark II blimp, a tank, light machine guns, rocket launchers, and a large drill that can dig itself to anywhere on the map. Pretty nice. Our eastern front is progressing nicely. We are sustaining some losses, but we are slowly burning Sigvald's Goon Empire to the ground. Before my current war is over, I already started eyeing up my next target. The undead pirates occupying the Granite Hills. Why them? because of their topographical proximity to the Elven Donut. If I take their cities, the elves would be within arm's reach, so war it is. The only issue is that they are in an alliance with Morathi, who is currently the second strongest faction in the world. Not optimal. So I decided to do some political acrobatics to avoid this issue by finding a faction Sartosa is at war with, being the elves. Absolutely disgusting. And offering them that I would join their war effort for some money. This way I didn't directly declare war on Sartosa, meaning I am only at war with her and not her allies. Genius. I rerouted Cassinet and together with John Dwarf's freshly recruited army, she didn't stand a chance. It was such an easy war that I literally didn't fight a single battle manually. This goes to show how powerful the Autoresolve believes the dwarves to be and how weak it thinks the undead are. Anyways, they are gone now. The elves thought that me offering to join their war meant I want to be their friend, and offered a trading agreement.
My people have always worked for the greater good, yours for greed. I think this offer reflects that.
Around this point, my network of underground mines, powered by the tears of thousands of children, started snowballing out of control, with some of the building buffs granting minor things such as faction-wide upkeep reduction and faction-wide income increase. And with the amount of mines I built, this resulted in my income skyrocketing to 5 digits. I also completed research on a technology that flat decreased upkeep by 5%. But before I could make an Instagram account to start promoting my guru course where I teach you how to become a millionaire and break out of the matrix, I realized child labor might not be an acceptable source of income by the IRS. So instead I spent my money on the recruitment of another army of short people. Kevin Hart's army consists of the most advanced military units my faction has access to, including a full front line of Gromril Guard, who are equipped with a tower shield that covers their entire body, granting them a melee defense of 75, which is pretty crazy for an infantry unit. They also have 155 layers worth of armor and 10,000 HP. Oh, and did I mention they also have guns? Armor-piercing guns at that. In addition to these beefcakes of a frontline, I also recruited a squadron of Gyrodynes, a Mark II blimp, the largest cannon known to date, that doesn't even fire an explosive round, just a massive ball of steel. A Barag Mark I tank, a Barag M1G1 tank, and after recruiting all of those, my income somehow went up. Another F faction offers me trade.
We must set aside our differences and concentrate on what is best for the world.
One of Sartosa's settlements was on Elven land, and by capturing it, I now own my first settlement on Ulthuan. Can't wait to fight all those elves. Wait a second. They have 2 settlements. Turns out the High Elves were bent over and violently assaulted by the forces of Nakari, Skulltaker and Morathi, and are on the brink of extinction with a total of 10 towns across 3 factions to their name. Does this mean that I will pity them? Perhaps show them mercy, maybe even help them out. No. My objective remains the same, take control of Ulthuan no matter who occupies it. The smart thing to do now would be to not piss any of them off and wait until I can wrap up my ongoing wars and unify my forces. But am I gonna do that? I start colonizing towns Skulltaker just burned down. I'm sure he won't mind. Meanwhile, my war with Sigvald is still going on, as he refuses to accept a peace treaty despite me burning down most of his empire. Whatever, at this point I don't care. I'm gonna pull back my armies and hopefully the desolate wasteland which is now populated by goatmen will scare off Sigvald from trying anything. On the following turn I got the notification that Tyrion's faction has been wiped out and we can all sleep that much easier tonight. Obviously I couldn't live with the fact that I didn't contribute to a single elven death, so I ended up as reinforcements for Khorne against the final city of Ariel. The amount of confusion that these soldiers must have experienced when Khorne demons overrun their defenses while a dwarf blimp bombs them at the same time must have been quite a lot. I would imagine it also wasn't very pleasant. Meanwhile, my income is closing in on 20,000 despite me just recruiting a full stack of army for John Dwarf. So I began rounding up another army with the renowned general of Papa Smurf. Despite our mutual hatred for the Point Ears, Skulltaker didn't take lightly to me colonizing towns he just burned down, so it's only inevitable that... yeah, as expected. Oh, and Nakari as well. Great. Turns out our climactic final war will be against Chaos Demons instead of the Elves, a much more pleasant opponent. The dynamic trio of Grombindol, John Dwarf and Tyler 1 are grouping up at the border, while Kaisenet is fighting for his life deep behind enemy lines. During the next few turns, the trio keeps fighting off Khorne army after Khorne army, while Kai'Sanat has a close call but manages to hang on by fighting off 3 full armies at once and surviving. Oh, and also Morathi and Sartosa decided to join the fun. Morathi was expected, but I thought you were dead.
I got better?
While this absolutely massive war is going on, back up north some funky goatman covered in his own feces decides now is the best time to start burning down my cities. This forced me to rush John Dwarf II's recruitment and quickly sent him to defend. This is only a minor setback, but still annoying. Meanwhile, Kevin Hart finally joins the main front and we perform a large-scale army exchange, giving Grombindal the newly recruited high-tier units, while Kevin gets the ragtag army of grudge settlers, regiments of renown, and whoever I could get my hands on from Kobold recruitment. With Papa Smurf's army fully conscripted and my army is now united, we begin Operation Consume the Donut. Our armies make landfall at Tor Anlek and at the Shrine of Cain. In some kind of cursed recreation of Normandy Beach, thousands of short people stormed the settlements and we quickly took both. Now we have to engage in a 3-sided offensive, going down both sides of Ulthuan and in the middle. The split I ended up with is Grombindal alone is enough for the west, in the middle I sent Kevin Hart, and to the east I sent the legendary squad of Kai'Sanat, Papa Smurf, John Dwarf and Tyler 1. Now we are surrounded on all sides by our enemies, with each of them more and more deranged. The only thing we can do in this situation is to match their energy. Meaning the following few turns were just as the game title suggests: Total War. It seems the sight of us horribly dismembering demons made the human races very friendly to us. I also might have just pioneered the premier strategy on how to get some maidens. And it's pretty easy. All you have to do is kill Satan. During our eastern campaign, without me even noticing, we auto-resolved the army holding the Sword of Cain, meaning Papa Smurf had the option to claim it. This was quite the dilemma. The Sword of Cain is extremely powerful and essentially turns your lord into a sexual apex predator, but it also comes with debuffs, including upkeep increases, public order issues, and also holding a weapon of such raw evil power wouldn't be appreciated by our eastern allies. And with the amount of enemies I already have, that would not be very fun, and the upkeep increases would hurt very much considering how many armies I have. All of these debuffs only for one overpowered lord, which I don't even really need. It's simply not worth it. You are free to call me a pussy, but I threw that shit in the ocean. While the squad went through hard-fought battle after hard-fought battle, Grombindal and his absolutely busted army was having no issues going from town to town, lobotomizing every one of Skulltaker's and Morathi's armies. Meanwhile, Kevin Hart was able to colonize every ruin they have previously burned down. This understandably freaked out Skulltaker to the point that he sued for peace, which I accepted. For now. With one less opponent to worry about, our game plan has slightly shifted. The new plan is to leave Grombindal at Tor Anlek, and his primary objective is to give the Dark Elves the mean eye from the other side of the ocean, and if any of them even dare to try and make a move towards us, his job is to catch them and shove his thick dwarven hands straight up their ass, effectively stopping Morathi from participating in the war. Now, Skulltaker is peaced out and the Dark Elves are under the Grombindal lockdown protocol, meaning Ernkari is now isolated and alone. So we proceed to steamroll through his, her, its. So we quickly steamrolled through his territory, wiping him off the map, including a massive siege battle at his capital. I also recruited another minor army led by Nikkei 15, and also John Lord II was finally able to join us after his goat annihilation campaign up north, meaning we were in a pretty good spot. Our French allies finish off Ernkari, and we fully eradicate all the remaining Dark Elves by capturing the once High Elf capital city of Lothern. Now the only other living thing left on our side is Skulltaker, so we promptly declare war on him and take all of his remaining towns in the span of 2 turns. He did his best to fight back, but with the amount of money I am currently making, I could probably double my entire military and still have some left, meaning casualties at this point are just a slight inconvenience. And after some final auto-resolves, we have done it. All of the elf donut is now occupied by either me or my allies, and we have saved the world from the tyrannical, pacifist menace of the High Elves and ensured they could never return. And that's going to be it for this video. I achieved complete financial enlightenment through the use of child miners, demonstrated the firepower of dwarven engineering, and made friends with the undead by stealing minerals from their tombs. But most importantly, we saved the world. And last but not least, I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.